Hey guys, it's King DX, and today I want to talk about Final Round. And essentially, after Final Round 21 ended, Shin Blanca basically took the stage to tell everyone that Final Round will apparently be no more. He's thinking about retiring, giving it up. He's not sure if there's going to be another event essentially being held. So today I wanted to talk about Final Round 21, how we got to this point, and whether or not I think Final Round will see another return to Atlanta, Georgia in 2019. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into it. Now, if you've been following the channel, you know that I try to always do an event review for every event I go to, whether that's an EVO, a CEO, wherever I go. I try to always make sure that I do a recap of the event itself. Now, this is actually the first year in probably the last 6 years that I actually did not attend Final Round. Now, I attended Final Round 15 all the way up to Final Round 20, and I did an event review for Final Round 20 last year, but I didn't attend Final Round 21. So I'm going to talk about why I personally didn't attend Final Round 21, and I'm going to also talk about how I think we ended up in this mess that we're in right now. So for me, for Final Round 21, so there's a couple things. One, I had a lot of big things to plan for the month of March. So between trying to book tickets to get out of the country at the end of the month, and also throwing in a pretty big birthday bash a little earlier in the month, and a bunch of stuff in between, I just simply didn't feel I had the extra time to practice and essentially get myself ready for Final Round. So that's why I essentially opted out of going. Now, the funny thing about that is I also didn't realize Final Round was right around the corner until the end of February. So it's kind of funny, with me being a member of so many FGC communities, it seemed like Final Round was kind of flying under the radar for me. And I stay in Atlanta, so that's really weird that for me to be a local, essentially, I really had no clue about the fact that Final Round was right around the corner until it was right around the corner. So with attendance being so low for Final Round 21, and I'm assuming the Final Round event losing a lot of money is going to be my biggest assumption, I have to ask the question, what type of advertisement was done around Final Round 21? Now, I work in advertisement and marketing. I also dabble a little bit in PR. And I mean, simply put, I don't think anyone did any type of job whatsoever to get the word out about Final Round. And I mean, if you don't advertise your service, then how do you expect people to capitalize? Or how do you expect people to find you? What did Larry do, or what did the people at Final Round do to bring in new participants? What did they do to bring back the old participants they lost? Yeah, at the end of Final Round 19, I think Larry went on the On the Blast show and he talked about, the problems and how he was going to fix them. And like my review of Final Round 20 last year said, he 100% did everything he said he was going to do. He wholeheartedly came through. No complaints were made. If you don't believe me, go back and check the video. I 100% said it was an amazing event. However, the same problem I had with his assessment of Final Round 19 is the same problem I have with his assessment of Final Round 21. I don't really think he gets what the underlying issue is and why his participants are dropping off. So to help you guys get a little bit of clarity and without wasting a bunch of time, let's jump back to Final Round 17. Final Round 17 is when things started to go wrong. Final Round 17 was cramped. Final Round 17 was starting to not run on time. Final Round 17 is when the inception of all the issues that happened at Final Round 19 started to show up. And none of those issues were addressed in Final Round 18. A matter of fact, Final Round 17 was run so poorly that I heard actual refs, volunteers talking about how bad it was. This was at Final Round 17. Final Round 18, that trend continued. Final Round 18 even got worse because they decided to give out bracelets instead of traditional badges. These little paper thin bracelets. I mean, they're cheaper than the bracelets that you get when you have to go to the doctor, right? Like those bracelets that when you go to the doctor, you're like, shit, I can't take this fucking off. Fuck. The shit we were given in Final Round 18 was so paper thin that if you even took a shower, they were fucking through. And here's the problem. If you went and did your badge pickup on Thursday and you put it on, They expected you to keep that badge with you throughout the whole event. These cheap little paper thin "Are you over 21" badges were supposed to be your ticket in and out the venue. Even if you started to sweat, they would just tear off. And people started losing those badges. And then instead of realizing that a bad decision was made in using those bracelets, and then coming out and saying that and saying, okay, we're going to do whatever we can to work with you people, they came out and said, if you lose it, you're going to have to buy another one, or you might not be able to get one. There was all this messaging about it, and they weren't really handling the situation well. Then we turn around to Final Round 19, and you can go online and figure out what type of clusterfuck that was, right? And then they do the same thing. This time they get badges, but these badges are also still paper fucking thin, and they're just ripping off. The lanyards are just cutting through, slicing through them like butter. People are dropping them, losing them all over the place, and we have the same scenario that we had at Final Round 18. And Final Round 19 was bigger. We had Street Fighter V. The entrants were crazy. And at no point in time, no one in Final Round had the balls to cut this shit off and say, we have too many fucking people. And that's why Final Round 19 was such a clusterfuck. Now, as a tournament organizer, it is your job to realize when you are out of products. And the way I'm talking about products is going to be a little bit weird, but just bear with me, right? Final Round, as a whole, is a service. Their service is they sell volunteers, referees, rules, and organization to you. That is the service they offer. They don't provide the product. The product is Street Fighter V. The product is Marvel vs. Capcom. The product is Super Smash Brothers. Those are the actual products. What Final Round is, they are a service. At some point in time, you reach a capacity for which your service can provide. Georgia Power only supplies power to Georgia. They cannot supply power to California, New York, Illinois. They cannot do that. It's outside of their capacity. After a certain amount of entrants, Final Round is not capable of properly servicing their customers. At Final Round 19, someone should have figured that shit the fuck out beforehand and said, we can only service X amount of customers. At any point in time, if we reach X amount of customers, we cut this shit the fuck off. We don't give passes to people like Chris G and other big names to say, oh, well, I mean, I know we're maxed out, but Chris G called me and now we're going to let him fucking participate. Now, I'm not saying that's an actual scenario that happened, particularly with Chris G, but I know for a fact scenarios like that happen all the time at Final Round, where all of a sudden the brackets get switched around because a late entrant that's a popular player decides they're showing up. You can't tell me the shit doesn't happen because I've seen it happen. I've watched the brackets. I know it happens. Now, Final Round 19, 18, 17 put a bad taste in people's mouths. And this is what I think happened. I think you had a lot of people from Final Round 17 who was expecting shit to get better who showed up to Final Round 18. And it didn't get better. Then you have a lot of people from Final Round 18 who showed up to Final Round 19 thinking it would get better. And it wouldn't get fucking better. And then they didn't show up to Final Round 20. So, while we're sitting around harping on the fact that Final Round 19 was so bad, let's also harp on the fact that 17 and 18 weren't that fucking great either. Were they catastrophes like 19? No, but were they pretty bad? Yup. So maybe the problem isn't that people didn't show up to Final Round 20 because of 19 being so bad. Maybe the problem is your service had been so bad up until that point that they already given you another chance and you had let them down. So let's go ahead and fast track to Final Round 20. So Final Round 20 had about half the entrants in Street Fighter V. So I think Street Fighter V Final Round 19 was about a little over 1,000. You cut those entrants in half to about 500. And if you do the numbers, and I did the numbers on my last event review, I think you roughly lose around $22,000 in revenue by having those 500 entrants gone. That's a lot of fucking money. I don't care what business you're running. I don't care if you're Apple. That's still a lot of money. Well, maybe if you're not Apple. Maybe if you're Apple, that shit doesn't matter. But for most businesses, $22,000 is a lot of fucking money. And now you have a bigger venue. You've done everything completely right. But what you still haven't done is you haven't gotten the word out about how you're changing things, what you're doing. You did one video saying this is what we're going to change, but you didn't follow up on it really. You know, and I think that's the biggest thing that hurts you. You can't expect your event to sell just on word of mouth alone. You'll get more negative word of mouth than you'll ever get more positive word of mouth. I'm not at work going, hey guys, guess what? I'm going to final round this weekend. I'm not fucking doing that. But if I come back from final round, they say, hey, how was that tournament you went to? I say, man, that shit was fucking ass. They're going to probably remember that a lot more than me coming back and saying, man, I had a great time this weekend in the final round. That's probably what's going to happen. So I think that's what happened with final round 20. And I think Shin's pretty smart. I think Shin understands that final round 19 is why entrants were so low for final round 20. Now, hindsight's 2020, right? Let's go ahead and look at final round 21. So I think we have a couple of problems. Now let's go back to the service product thing I talked about a second ago. Now, Shin talked about how he felt like people were trolling final round. Now, I'm not in his head. I don't 100% know what he's talking about. Maybe he's talking about Jabali. Maybe he's talking about CEL guys fucking with him. I don't know. Those guys don't seem to like each other. Maybe that's the case. I know there's been apparently a couple people that have come out like on Twitter and they talk shit about final round. Whatever. At the end of the day, if you have a good product or a good service, I should say, then people will fuck with you. And final round 20 was a great, excellent product. Service. And that's very important for me to establish for the next thing. What did your products look like for final round 21? Your service can be good, but if the product is not good, then your service suffers for it. What do I mean? Let's look at Street Fighter V Season 3. Are as many people playing Street Fighter V as they did 2 years ago? Yes or no? A lot of people argue that might not be the case. Now, I think Season 3 is a lot more balanced than Season 2 was, and definitely the end of Season 1. But I'm not 100% sure that we have the same amount of people showing up. And now let's look at the new products that you decided to offer under your service for this year's final round. You brought Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, which there's probably some people in the world that don't even realize that fucking game released yet. I mean, fuck that game. Then you have Tekken, which we all know that Atlanta has a pretty big turnout for Tekken normally, but on a global scale, Tekken isn't really a big American game. Like, we don't really play it that much. It's popular, but it's still, as far as the FGC goes, it's not one of the biggest franchises out there. And then you have Dragon Ball FighterZ, which released at the end of last year, had a massive success, sales numbers off the charts. I mean, it blew everything out of the water, right? Now, this is when you start going, okay, well, was the final round team expecting that because Dragon Ball FighterZ sold so well that the entrants were going to rise because of that? Because if they did, here's the problem with that. Now you have to look at the audience for final round or for Dragon Ball. Are the people who show up to your tournaments casual players, or would you say they're competitive, more hardcore players? I think we all say they're more competitive, hardcore players. A game like Dragon Ball FighterZ is mostly going to bring in a very casual audience. Yes, it's so like fucking crazy. Yes, you're going to have a lot of people that want to play it. And you're going to have a lot of hardcore FGC members that are going to participate. But you have to do a good job of playing the numbers, doing the statistics, and essentially projecting out what those entrants are going to look like. You're going to have to look at other local tournaments. You're going to have to start doing some research to really get numbers and figure out what you're looking at. And I'm not sure the final round team does that at all. I don't think if they ever go around and look at other tournament numbers to try to help gauge the environment and see how well their tournament's going to do. I personally think that they're not really crunching any numbers on their side. I think they're just kind of out there, you know, if they have a good year, they have a good year, and they just expect to do better. I think they're just expecting every year to see growth. I mean, businesses don't work that way. You project numbers, you figure out sales, like you figure out budgets. Like, I think, when I look at how the tournaments run, just from the outside looking in, because I don't, I'm not sitting there with these guys. I don't have any of their numbers on hand, but when I look at it in hindsight, I just go, man, like, did you not see any of this stuff coming? Do you not have any type of contingency plans? It kind of feels like it's either, all or nothing with this team, right? It's like they either half-ass it or they go completely the fuck all in. And when they go all in, the shit's amazing. But if you're expecting to have a larger turnout, than the year before every year, and you're also not doing anything to help grow the community and bring in more local players, then then there's a problem. And now we're primed for somebody like Turner, who runs E-League, to come in and take over next year. Is Final Round going away? A huge part of me says no. And here's why I say no. If you read the post that Larry put up, he says that he was thinking about ending Final Round before he showed up to Final Round 21. He said that basically Final Round 21 would have to be damn near perfect for him to continue it. Does that mean you were upset about the numbers you did for Final Round 20? Like, what was it that had you so distressed that you felt like 21 needed to be perfect for it to continue? Matter of fact, in your minds, what's perfect? Does perfect mean trumping the numbers that Final Round 19 did? What is perfect in your eyesight? Here's something I feel about people when they say they're going to retire. When you say you're going to retire, when you're thinking about retiring, I suggest you do so. Because at that point, your heart's not going to be in it. And now, if you really want to be honest, let's look at Final Round 2021. You say it had to be run perfect and that you were already thinking about quitting. Then did you really put your all into Final Round 21? How much can you put of yourself into something that you're already thinking about giving up on? If I go to work, right? And before I go to work, Monday, I go, you know what? I'm thinking about quitting this fucking place. Do you think I'm going to go in there Monday and I'm going to bust my ass? Do you really think I'm going to go in and just be like, man, I'm finna fucking do 18 hours today. Fuck that shit. I'm going all in. No. Once the passion is gone, that shit is gone. And if you're not passionate about Final Round anymore, which I understand, then I don't think you should do the shit anymore. And personally, I like Final Round. I have no problem with Final Round. But, when you point to things like people trolling and, all this other stuff being the reason for why Final Round 21 wasn't successful, then I feel like you're not looking on the inside and figuring out what you could have done differently and what problems you may have. I don't know if these guys are doing postmortems. Like, are you guys getting together and really trying to figure out, like, what went wrong? Like, what can we do to fix it? I mean, I saw that from Final Round 19 to Final Round 20, but I sure as fuck didn't see it between Final Round 18 and Final Round 19. I didn't see it between 17 and 18. That almost makes me think that the outcry was so bad from 19 that it forced your hand. I don't know if that was necessarily something you even wanted to do. I look at it this way, right? With Final Round coming back next year, a possible Final Round 22. I think it's going to come back because I personally think the post that Larry made was 100% to garner attention, media attention, and also combat the negative image of Final Round. In the sense that You know, it's almost like, do you guys remember a couple months back where there was like this little kid and he was being bullied? He like made this video with this big country draw. He's like, you keep bullying me, and you know, bullying's wrong. You guys are mean people. And then all these celebrities kind of got behind it. And they're like, yeah, stop bullying. Let's stop this shit. Blah, 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 blah. People are allowed to have their own fucking opinions. And they're allowed to dislike some shit. And they're also allowed to protest some shit. That can't be your reason for why things aren't going your way. You have to look at the management team. And without there being a mention in Larry's post to the management team, or, you know, needing to figure out how to run the tournament better and more efficiently, cost efficiently, I still don't think you get it. I don't really think it has anything to do with trolls. I think that post that Larry made was 100% to gain empathy from the FGC and try to get people who did not come back out after final round 19 to come back out to final round 22. And I don't think he's going to stop final round. I don't. With that being said, if final round does end, then all it's going to do is leave space for Turner to take over Atlanta and allow E-League to step in and fill the spot of final round. And Turner has a lot more revenue. They can afford to take a greater loss than, you know, final round can. I really hope that we do see final round next year. And I'm going to do my best to attend final round 22 if it comes back next year. But what I'm not going to do is sit around and act like the previous actions of the previous final rounds did not deter people from coming to final round 20 and possibly still coming to 21. And let's also not act like anything's really been done to help grow final round as an event. If you're not going to put the effort forth to grow it, and that means more than just a couple Facebook posts, then you're going to keep getting diminishing returns. Samsung did not do the same amount of sales the next year after their Note 7 was being banned from airplanes. That's reality. And, you know, we're just too grown to be acting like we're being bullied and picked on. I hope we see final round next year. And if it's back, I'll definitely attend it. If not, I've definitely had a lot of good experiences this final round. And it will definitely be missed. But I think if Larry's heart isn't in it, then it shouldn't come back. And I know that's going to suck for a lot of members of the FGC who like having a local tournament in their own backyard. Hell, I can get the final round in under 20 minutes. I can drive there in under 20 minutes. But I understand that things have to change. And there's going to have to be a new standard for the FGC and esports in general moving forward. And until you realize that you have a service and that your service has to be at a certain level and your service is depending on the products in the industry, you may keep getting these diminishing returns and you may not be happy. It may be a lot of stress on you. And because of that, it may make your event not as good as it could be. Anyway, we'll wait and we'll see. But I wanted to throw this out there. I didn't expect it to go this long, but at the end of the day, I felt like it needed to be said. And I think it really needed to be said from an unbiased place. You know, I don't want to come across as a troll. I don't necessarily want to come across as harsh. I'm just coming across as me. This is how I talk normally. And this is 100% how I feel about the event. Final Round 20 was amazing. And if Final Round 21 ran anything like Final Round 20, I'm sure that Final Round 21 was also fucking amazing. But your product, the 3 previous years, was sub fucking par. And Final Round 19 was god fucking awful. People don't forget that shit that quick. And if you really want to do this shit, if your heart is really fucking in it, then you'll understand that shit and you'll do your best to make amends with people. That's it for me. King DX signing off. I'll see you guys next time.